Americans have, by and large, been losing a lot of ground just in the world of Christianity, right? We've a recent Pew Research study looked at from like 1990 to today, where 1990 had 5% of our population were the nones, right? They didn't have any affiliation with faith at all.
I think it's called the nuns.
The nuns.
It's because they click that I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, I'm nun. So they're called the nuns.
Right. So 5% are the nuns, not the ones that wear the cute hats.
No, not those nuns.
Not those kind of nuns. The different kind of nuns. Right. They from 1990 to today of 29%. And you see the same downward trend when you look at those that identify as Christian. The curves kind of match. And I think that we need a powerful, united vision to turn things around. I think timing is so important. We cannot let this stay as it is. We have to attack this. We have to attack it aggressively.
Sure.
Together.
Sure.
So we need to take this head on. I think the importance of this is paramount.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about through the process is that it's really not about numbers. It's about lives being transformed.
Right.
Every time that I hear, such a person was saved, a number of people were baptized, I'm thinking the generational transformation that's going to happen, not just in that individual, but in their children and their children's children, and the impact that that's going to have, not just in California, but around the world. Because some of those families are going to have children that are going to be called to be missionaries to a place that we'll never go. And so, but it all begins with us being obedient to doing the Great Commission work that we're called to do, right? And so, again, that's why we've set goals, right? We've seen the numbers tracking down. We see there's less and less evangelicals sharing their faith. They feel like they're going to be offended. They feel scared. They don't feel like they're equipped to do it. And yet, you're working as you do different things and workshops in different ways to help churches to get their people to go out.
Welcome to the GC Collective podcast, brought to you by the California Southern Baptist Convention. From local missions to global impact, we explore the vision, passion, and heart behind our collective movement in California and around the world. Where better together isn't just a motto, it's how we maximize our impact in fulfilling the Great Commission.
Welcome to the GC Collective, brought to you by the California Southern Baptist Convention. I'm Pete, the Executive Director, and I'm so happy that you're here watching and listening to our podcast today. And it is Easter week, one of the most wonderful weeks of the year. It's Super Bowl week for Christianity. That's what we say at the church that I attend, right? We have with us today Sarah Graham, our Communications Director.
Good job on the intro, Pete.
Thank you. Good to be back, right?
Yeah.
And also we have with us for the third time, Jason Blankenship. And Jason is our all things evangelism here at the California Southern Baptist Convention. Yeah. Jason, welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you dressed up in your Easter colors. Pastels, very nice, man.
I think blue just goes with everything Jesus themed.
Amen.
I don't know
Dodger blue,
Rams
have blue. You're right. You're absolutely correct.
It's the color. Yeah.
That's great.
Good job.
All the water themes for worship songs, I fit.
That's
there
true.
You go.
That's
there you
true.
go. Well, hey, today, again, all things evangelism.
Yeah.
We are on Easter week, and you get to hear and to read some reports of churches that the California Southern Baptist Convention partners with. Share with us some of those stories.
Yeah. Let me tell you one I think that is just one of the coolest I've heard in so long.
I'm ready.
So this is in downtown ghetto Fresno. Okay. So this is hard.
Down the street from my house.
I was just going to say where Pete lives.
Right, yes. And the pastor there, his name's Brandon, and we work with them several times a year with grants, and they do a lot of things and Kicks for Kids, where they'll try to get every kid going back to school with a new pair of shoes. When all their outreaches, one of the things that they have done was they had bought a tattoo removal machine.
Oh, yeah.
To try to help that community when it comes to things like that. So they just got it, and they had service, and they after service, they were going to practice on a guy named Tattoo Face Dave.
Oh, okay. So the name fits, yeah.
Right? And a woman that just started coming there, had been there for, I guess, a couple weeks, saw what was happening, and she goes, oh, I got to be next. And they try to say, well, this is brand new. We're not quite sure how it all works. We're going to practice on Dave because he doesn't care, I guess, on his face. But
right.
She goes, no, you don't understand. I need you. I need your help. And her story was, she had been on the streets, being managed by a man on the streets for like 5 years. And he tattooed his name across her neck. And she goes, now that I got Jesus, I want this guy's name off my neck.
Wow. Yeah,
so
that's incredible.
Dave says, you got the seat. He stood
Oh, man.
gave it to her.
Oh, wow.
Hey, you're not going to say no to that.
No. And I'm thinking, man, what a way to engage your community. You talk about, I think, being Jesus in real life in the community. That's just, I think, a beautiful picture.
Yeah, talk about meeting the need of, the surrounding area. Right. So the Evangelism grant helps fund that ministry, or?
I don't know if it was that specific, buying a tattoo removal machine, but throughout the year, we support several outreach events that church does.
Okay.
And that's like one I know we did help with was like the Kicks for Kids. But in all of that stuff, it all kind of mingles together. And I'm not sure if the woman came because maybe her child came to get shoes, but she ended up coming to the church somehow and then became somewhat sticky and then got a tattoo removed off.
It's the fruit of evangelism efforts.
It does. It all blends.
There are so many different types of outreaches that our churches do.
Yes.
Just mention 4 or 5 of them that are just different types of outreaches that you know of.
Here's something that's so interesting. I get asked this question often at evangelism workshops. What do you hear that's working? And the truth is, what churches do is so unique to their church. I mean, some of them, it has to do with food giveaways. Some of them will have certain outreach. Some will have a block party.
Sure.
The number of things that are done. So we did 451 grants last year that came and got trained and then got a grant for it. And I bet probably 390 of those were very unique things for their church. But I can tell you some things that we have seen work and we're trying to promote. And unfortunately, this is just the week of Easter. But one that has worked the last several years, and we've been trying to pump leading into Easter, is we call it VIP invite box.
Okay.
So what it is the church gets boxes, or I've seen churches where they'll not do boxes, but like little bags, and they'll simply put gifts inside the bag. Chocolate, something that might be themed for the season they'll actually want to promote and invite people to, with information about the church. And they bring those to church, and church members that will commit to invite someone to come to a church service can take a box or a bag, take it with them, and they go and they invite the person they want to invite, and then that's kind of the idea. The thing about it is the actual bag or box doesn't really matter all that much, I don't think. I think what matters is in Sunday, someone making a commitment that I've been praying for my neighbor Bob or John I work with, and I'm going to make a commitment today to take this, to give to him and invite him to come to church service.
Yeah. It's a tool.
It's a tool, and it has worked so well. I mean, we have mega church that has done this, where it was their biggest Easter outreach within their year. We've had a small church of 25 that did this and had 55 on Easter. Right. So I don't know necessarily you need to make it just Easter. I think if your church has anything special they're doing, you can kind of apply it about any other way.
Yeah.
But that's been a real powerful tool, is actually intentionally leading your congregation to do something that they invite someone to come to church with them.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel very like regionally specific or culturally specific. No. It's everybody can invite somebody regardless of who you are and where you're at.
Everybody likes a gift.
That's true.
So one of the things that we've been trying to do is to just share with our people this whole Reaching California initiative that we have as a state. We did listening sessions. We've been working together with a task force. We've created some goals that we believe that together as a collective of churches of our convention that we can achieve in the next 10 years. Why don't you share with the people some of the goals that your team has before them as we go forward in the next 10 years?
So our big objective is 1 million people engaged on a regular, like a monthly basis within church. 1 million, which is about 2% of California's population. So we have our 2% goal,
right,
and about 1 million. So how the evangelism team has taken up on trying to help us accomplish that. So we've made the commitment and set the target for 1.25 million gospel engagements. That means churches doing evangelism, and they share the gospel with someone that doesn't know Jesus. Our goal is 1.25 million by 2036.
So you're talking about a one-time encounter or more.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. They have something, they're reaching their community, and someone that doesn't know Jesus gets to hear about Jesus. So that's and our program to help accomplish that. And we have evangelism workshops that we train and give evangelism grants to churches to do just that. And we track that. How did it go? And we hear back from churches. So that's one of them that's big for us, is 1.25 million. But another one is we also set a goal of 100,000 baptisms.
Okay.
So
in 10 years.
In 10 years, by 28, we have 100,000
And the convention
baptisms.
doesn't baptize anybody, right? And we don't go do the outreaches. It's as we're working alongside with our churches. Now, you talked about workshops. Why don't you explain what do you do in these workshops? How do you actually do these? How many do you do?
Yeah.
Who comes to them?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
So we work in partnership with our associations. We have 28 associations in California, and we partner with them to put on half-day workshops. So usually it's 10 to 2 or sometimes 9 to 1, but usually somewhere in the middle of the day. Try to make it accessible for not just pastors and leaders, but for anyone in the church that would like to come. And we have a really good bench of some of the best leaders we have in California will come and lead a workshop that's evangelistic in its focus. We started off with how churches can create a culture of evangelism. This year, the primary focus we're pushing on is how do you share your faith through your own personal story? And that's something we're trying to train. So we're telling churches, hey, this isn't just something for the pastor or maybe for key leaders. Anyone that has interacted with Jesus, believes in Jesus, has that personal story, bring all of them to this workshop that you can, and it's going to benefit not just you, but your whole church. And helping them understand, how do you share their story without being weird? That's kind of the tagline we have in this.
Without being weird.
Without being weird. And it's not difficult. I think it's a great value add for a lot of our churches. And then we also add in there ideas that churches can do for outreach. But it's basically personal evangelism this year is our current focus, and trying to put that. So we do about 35 of these workshops each year. Up and down California. So if you're watching this and you're wondering where you might find out about that, if you go to csbc.com/events, you can see upcoming evangelism workshop locations in the churches. And then I would also recommend reaching out to your director of missions, and he knows also when theirs are happening, and that's another way you can get
And you're doing them in different languages, correct?
Yes, right. So about 13 of those are also in Spanish. We've also last year did in Mandarin.
Hey.
Right. And we're trying to plan some of the future ones, which will be in Korean. So yeah, it's just a matter of trying to get the resources together, put those together. But yeah, we're trying to get them in multiple languages. Right now, the primary is English and Spanish.
And it's more than just language. We're talking about cultural differences. So that makes it difficult to...
That's also one of the reasons why we went from having just one big evangelism event to making it regional, because churches are so different.
They really are.
We go to like Redding, and we have a guy up there that has a community of 80, and the needs of that type of a area is so vastly different than going to like the Inland Empire,
right,
or going to San Diego, or going to the Bay. I mean, you have California is the most diverse place in the world. So how do we help churches that have incredible uniqueness? Well, we figured, all right, well, let's do it regional. It'll just be for that region. And we'll do 35.
So you did 35 one-day workshops.
Yep.
How many different churches did you resource through the workshops?
Oh, boy. Last year was 451.
Churches came.
Different churches.
Churches,
Wow.
which came to a workshop, was trained, and also then requested a grant to implement what they had learned.
Right.
Which means we had more, but that's the number of those that took part in the entire program, the training and the resourcing.
So it's possible that you had over 500 churches that came.
It is over 500 because only about 75% of our churches that attend actually request a grant.
That's
so
great. That's great.
Training was even higher.
That's great. That's great. So they request a grant by going on the website, filling out the form.
Yep.
And then you approve it.
Right.
How much money do you put into this stuff?
Oh, yeah.
That's the big question, right?
That is.
And how big are the grants typically?
Yeah. So usually if a church attends an evangelism workshop, they get access to $1,000 as long as the church is given to missions within the last 12 months. Anything.
You're talking about participating or in friendly cooperation church.
Right. In the cooperative program, if they give to the cooperative program through CSBC, then they have access to that grant. And we don't look at amounts. That doesn't weigh into factoring if they do. So if they have in the last 12 months, they get access to the $1,000. If a church has not come to an evangelism workshop, but they still need some help, we can give them $500 to do whatever they'd like to do throughout the year. And so church has access to those two.
Unlimited amount of money you have to be able to give.
I wish actually, when we first started the program, we were able to give higher amounts because there were less churches. But 451 last year. Right. We probably last year, we used from places that, we did everything we could to get money to churches. We spent $633,000 last year in resourcing churches in the areas of evangelism.
That's great.
So that money comes, the vast majority is from churches that give to missions through the cooperative program.
Yeah.
Through partnerships with North American Mission Board. Also, we use money that we have in our state, California Missions Offering. A lot of that goes to help churches with evangelism workshops. So
there is no other team at the state convention that has more resources financially than the evangelism team. We really try to keep the main thing, right, even in our budget.
Well, a lot of our churches are aware because we did the analytics on our website for the 2024, and that link for the grant was one of our top clicked links. Right. So the word's getting out.
That's good. So if you're watching and you're wondering, I'd like to do something, if you go online to csbc.com and you click on the little evangelism icon that has a megaphone, on the bottom of that page is the link for a grant. And I'd love to help you out, and I'd love to help you guys get some success.
Sure. Can I ask you a question about the big gold number? So we're doing this sort of mini series with all the team leaders as your initiative relates to the 2% collective goal that we have as a state. So you guys worked with the task force to come up with this big number, 1.25 million engagements, and how many? 100,000?
100,000 baptisms.
Do you feel like that goal is maybe too lofty for us right now, or
good,
as a state?
Good question. And I think it is, and I think that's awesome.
Okay.
Because here's the thing when it comes to setting goals. If we set a goal that amongst ourselves we could pull off and we can do, when we're done, we pat ourselves on the back and say, yay us. If we have a goal that is beyond us and only God can do it, when we get there, then we can say, yay God, because it was God that made this happen.
Yeah.
I think it is possible. I think God can get us there. But what I'll tell you is that when we do, it's not us, it's God that had done it. Yeah. But on our level, that means we have to do a lot of planning and strategizing and resourcing to try to help us to get there.
Yeah, so and it's literally going to take every church.
So Jason, you've been doing this for about a little bit over 4 years now.
Yep.
And last year, how many people were engaged from the people that came to the workshops, got grants, and then went and shared the gospel? How many people were engaged last year?
Yeah. Last year, so I shared we had 451 churches that got the grant. They went and shared the gospel with a little over 112,000 people.
That's beautiful.
The year before that was 120,000 people.
Okay.
So when you look at that and we look at the trajectory of where we're going, we see God is working towards that goal.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to hit it.
And you've been blown away every year when you hear back the results, right?
Yep.
And the key for us has been getting the data, right?
Yes.
A lot of times, just the hardest thing for us is to get the data back.
Yep.
So you threaten them. If they don't give you the data, they don't get any more scholarships in the future, right? No more grants.
Good word.
My assistant will send out some nice emails reminding, hey, please let us know. Because what happens is when a church fills out a grant, they put the date of their event.
Right.
Or if it's maybe a longer term, maybe it's like 3 or 4 weeks they're doing, or maybe 6 months. We want to know when it's going to end.
Right.
And we put that date on a master calendar. And then when that happens, my assistant sends an email to the church saying, hey, how'd it go?
Yeah.
Sure.
And she's nice about it until the 4th one. And then an email comes from me that says, if you don't let us know how it went. We cannot help you in the future with any more funds.
And then they fill out the report.
Then we get the
so I mean, the workshops really help on the front end, going, reaching people, identifying communities, different ways of reaching folks. But then there's that other part of the goal, and that's seeing 100,000 baptisms over that 10-year period.
Right.
And that one is even harder because we can't convince anybody to go tell anybody that they need to get baptized. We can't baptize anybody ourselves. And based on the trajectory, man, if we hit 100,000 baptisms in 10 years here in the state of California, that would be a record.
Right.
So how are you going to motivate churches and train churches and help churches to get there?
Good questions. Right. We don't baptize. As the evangelism director, I don't baptize anybody.
Yeah.
Right. That's something that we don't do. But because we have it as a set goal, it means that everything I'm thinking about is how can I help resource and equip churches to accomplish that. So I'm thinking, how can we be a force multiplier to this goal? So one of the things that we've done, and I've worked with, directors of missions are some of the most valuable guys on the mission field. I think the most valuable for churches is a local director of missions.
Yes.
So I've worked with them about trying to come up with an idea and a plan to help. And one of the things that we have done is creating pastor cohorts. So just from experience, I know that when you get a group of guys together, pastors, that usually are having a plan and think in isolation, we don't do so good by ourselves.
Right.
God designed us to grow better in community. So when you put a community of pastors together that are thinking about and talking about this together, that means that they're going to be better in the end. They share ideas, they cross-pollinate, they hold each other accountable, and they talk about how are we doing to advance our church, to get more baptisms. They set their own goals in cohorts. And in a cohort, in that environment, it's compounding. So that's one of the things that we do, work with associations. The association helps identify and design, bring cohorts together. And
help us count numbers. Help us count how many baptisms too are getting baptized. When you were director of missions before you moved into this role, you were able to help your association to do something really cool to help us count. What did you do? Yeah,
we every year at ACPs, our association took the responsibility on ourselves to make sure we're going to get every church. So we waited until about January when churches would be able to fill out their own ACPs, and then we got the list and just made the calls and got
you
the
had
rest of the data.
100%.
100% ACP.
100% reporting.
I've never heard of this.
Yes.
Can I give you a little shout out to a director of missions, Gil in Gold Coast?
Yes.
Him and his wife have been doing this, and the last I heard, they have 4 more churches left to get ACPs to get their 100%, and they're hunting them down. Go Gil, yes.
That's
love
wonderful.
That guy.
You know, and a lot of people, again, the numbers, they think we're all about the numbers, but it's not about the numbers. It's about what God is doing in our midst and being able to celebrate, right? When we have a birthday, we just don't celebrate that you're alive another year. No, we celebrate that you've been alive for 50 years, that you've been alive for 60 years. When we have an anniversary of a church, we tend to celebrate a little bit bigger when it's an older church. It's made it 10 and made it 20 years, right? And that's what we're trying to do here with these goals is keep ourselves accountable to make sure that we're actually staying focused on doing the things that are important, sharing the gospel, baptizing, making disciples, right? And how do we know that they're being disciples? Because they're following the Lord in baptism.
And you said, I think,
when
that's
you
so
wonderful.
First launched this vision that if we don't reach the 2%, but we get 1.97%, praise the Lord. That's going to be, an incredible celebration.
And that's what I think is so beautiful. What it does is it identifies our most important priority. So every day when I get up, I'm able to look and say, what am I going to do with my time today? Right. What I do with my time today is be about this goal.
Yeah.
Things that are good, things that our desks are full of things that are good.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that things that are good are taking a backseat to what's most important, which is 1 million by 2036.
Right.
Yeah. So that's so it helps me focus.
And on top of what you've already shared, there's other things that you are also leading from the state convention to help reach, like VBS, and continue to do the student conferences.
Right.
Share with us a little bit about that stuff.
Yeah. So with our goal of baptisms and churches, There's a statistic that says 84% of every Christian came to faith before the age of 14.
I'm that person.
Yeah. A
Same
lot
here.
of us are going to be. I think the statistic means that if you're like over 60 and you place your faith in Christ, you are 1 in 1,000.
Wow.
That's how skewed that goes. So we have to focus on children and on youth.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do on a state level is we work with regional organizers. So Allison Roberts in Southern California for English, Nestor
For
Amaya
VBS.
for Vacation Bible School training.
Right.
Nestor Amaya in Central California, and Jeff Colburn up in Sacramento area to help Northern California. We have an incredible servant of the Lord, Lydia Parra, that is doing Spanish, and she's doing 4 Spanish trainings for Vacation Bible School workers where they can come and get these tools. And so that is something where they're going to train collectively over 300 people to lead Vacation Bible School.
Right.
So that's great. And then we also have Ignition coming up. So let me get the date, September 12th and 13th. So if you're watching, make sure you go to csbc.com/events. And then go to September 12th and 13th, and there's information about Ignition. It's going to be at Acts 2 Network up in Alhambra.
Alameda.
Alameda, not
Right.
Alhambra.
Northern California.
Northern California,
Correct.
right. And register. So there's a registration on there for it's for adults and for students, and bring your students to this event. It's
So we only have one this year.
right, one in Northern California.
And every sermon is really directed to that junior higher high school student, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So
Definitely.
yeah, because you said adults can register.
Well,
your adults need to register as well.
Right. They
Right.
do as counselors
Sure,
and
sure.
chaperones.
Yes,
But,
Sure.
but what we do is there's a different price. So adults that are coming, they still have to fee, but it's not nearly it's not as much. I think it's $25 right now, and the student I think it's $49. I think is what we have it at. But so there is a registration.
Well, with only
cost.
one, that means it might fill up faster. So people need to.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. There's only
Get
space like
registered.
for 900 people
Right.
in
Yeah.
that sanctuary. So
Right.
I'm looking forward to attending it. I like to at least be there for one day and
Definitely.
and watch just those kids full of energy, and
It's
then
really,
bam, the gospel
Special.
just hits them, right? And the message is brought, and you just see God just breaking through in those kids' lives.
Yeah.
And none of us really understand the impact that it's going to make in their lives
right.
long term. But
Yeah.
And
how
we
wonderful.
We partner with SLU, Student Leadership University.
Yes.
with
Jeff
that.
Wallace
Jeff
does
Wallace.
an amazing job.
He does.
Love my brother Jeff Wallace.
Yeah.
Shout out to that guy in Florida. But that's so great, Jason. I'm so grateful that CSBC has you here with us leading this initiative.
Thank you.
It's really a blessing to see your growth and the direction that the evangelism team has been taking in the last few years. And if you're not aware of all these tools, just call our office, go to our website. Just send an email to jblankenship@csbc.com, and we'll respond to you, or even to the GC Collective podcast, and we will respond to you and guide you towards that. So
We'll put all
even-
that in the notes.
yeah.
When it's easy to remember, evangelism@csbc.com. That comes to me
Oh,
also.
you got that
Just
one too.
Evangelism
right.
at CSBC.
And everything evangelism. It's all him, right? So, hey, funny story. We ask our guests to bring us a funny story.
I don't know
and
that you can top one of the funny stories you've told in the past.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
The
that
one
one
about
was a doozy.
Rogaine
Oh, boy.
was something.
Oh man.
Please keep this one PG.
We don't need to bring that one up. I got in trouble by my wife for that story, just so you know. That's one.
My-
Don't go back and listen to anything I've said in the
I would
past.
be in trouble if I would
I
have shared
won't
that
put it in
story
the
too.
notes.
But
Good,
all right.
good. All right, so an interesting. This might be funny and maybe a little bit cringe. So here's what had happened. When I started off in ministry, I had in doing baptisms, I wore, like a lot of pastors do, I wore fishing waders. And they're neoprene waders because sometimes that water can be cold because not all the heaters worked all the time.
Right.
So thick neoprene waders, and you put like a choir robe over it so you look a little bit official, not like you're out fishing.
Right.
And I would always start my worship service off with baptism. So this particular day, we had about 20 for the year, and we're having 3 baptisms that morning. So I get all set up, put on my waders, put the robe on, and I go in and I'm walking into the water to do the welcome everyone and to start doing the baptisms, and then something starts to squirm on my belly, and I realize what it It is a monster cockroach inside my waders in the water. So I have to grin and bear it.
No.
Do the opening. I do 3 baptisms and then run to the changing room, and this giant cockroach comes flying out of my waders.
Dude.
From,
Was there a junior higher like out there somewhere
Oh,
laughing at you?
Guts out.
No, that one. And this was in Corcoran, kind of farmland. Boy, we grew them cockroaches. I think it had a saddle. It was a monster.
I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking like Man in Black with the cockroach guy.
Totally.
You know, like oh my gosh, that's gross, bro.
That is incredible that you were able to keep it together. I'd have lost my mind.
Yeah. I was on the edge. I'm sure people thought something's different about that guy.
Just nervous and antsy.
Yeah,
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Bam, bam.
Yeah.
Hurry up, get out here. Let's go. Let's go.
Moving along.
Oh my gosh.
It was a hard morning.
So ever since then, you always turn them upside down.
Oh, definitely.
And just
Yeah.
do the
Then
check.
I would hang him inside out.
Oh,
And then,
yeah. Okay,
even
there's a
though
pro
they're
tip, pastors.
wet,
That's your pro tip.
Right. You got to make sure they dry, but you turn those things inside out because there's things that can crawl into your waders.
Oh, I am creeped out. You're right.
Oh, told you. It was a rough one.
Sarah, close us up.
If you want to chime in on that funny story, you can always email us at podcast@csbc.com. Thanks for being here, Jason, again. Thanks for running the show here, Pete. Good job.
Thank you.
All right. Say bye, fellas.
All right.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.